Hey everybody, this is Jeff again, still working remotely in the temporary lab space I have set up at home. In the last video I showed you some of the bone I was sorting from our excavations last fall in the Swan Creek area, but unfortunately in that sample I was working on, most of the artifacts had already been pulled out, and so I thought it'd be nice to show you what some of those artifacts actually look like. And so everything I'm going to show you here is from 1 square meter of our excavation block, and this is pretty typical of material that we found across the site. So here again we see more of the bone that is like what was in the previous video. It's highly fragmented and a lot of it's burnt and really heavily broken up. But here are some of the artifacts that are typical of the site. You can see these are pieces of a clay smoking pipes, several clay smoking pipes. There's some bowl fragments. This is a spot where the stem meets the bowl, and there's a couple of stem fragments as well. There's a few pieces of lead shot, and I left them in the bag so they don't all roll around, but we also, not only did we find a lot of lead shot, we also found several pieces of melted scraps of lead that looks like they were probably making lead shot right on site. Here are some pieces of charcoal, charred wood fragments, and this thing that rolled away here is a little capsule full of some charred corn cobs. There's some window glass, some structural remains, so we think there's probably a cabin or something like that on the site. Here's a bunch of slag or cinders, and this material may have just been brought on the site as fill material to fill in a low spot or to put down on a farm road, something like that. Or possibly some of it could be from burning coal on the site. And speaking of coal, here we have a pile of shale, and the shale is widespread all throughout the plow zone in this site, and it's it's clearly derived from the late 19th, early 20th century coal mining industry in the Saginaw Valley. And when the Castle Museum reopens, I hope you all come and check out our exhibit on coal mining. But moving along to artifacts, there's a lot of ceramics on this site. And here we see some pieces of yellow paste earthenware and some red paste earthenware. Both of these would have been used for bowls, cooking vessels, things like that, maybe mugs. But also a lot of white paste ceramics on the site, and lots of different decorative styles here. And so you can see some yellow sponge decorated pieces, some hand painted blue here. These are some blue transferware fragments. And then this one with a little black stripe and the blue background here, those are both from a annularware or dipped vessel. Again, probably a bowl or a mug, something like that, some kind of hollowware vessel. More structural remains. You can see some heavily corroded square nails and even a smaller tack there. Lots of just scraps of corroded iron. These are 2 button fragments. We have one made of shell. You can see one of the holes there, and this is the edge of a button made out of bone. Some glass fragments. Glass vessels are pretty scarce out there. We just have fragments of a few, but here's some really dark green, dark olive glass, and then a smaller fragment of a clear or maybe a light aqua colored glass vessel. Lots of really heavily eroded brick fragments. I suspect these are probably from a chimney of whatever structure was out on the site. And these smaller pieces here appear to be mortar or possibly even chinking from a cabin. Then there's also just a little bit of earlier prehistoric material out on the site. So we have a couple of flakes here and a fire-cracked rock. So those are all the sort of typical artifacts that we've been finding on the site. Hopefully when we pull all of this information together, it will tell us a little bit about the people who lived there, how they were making a living, when they were actually out there. I've been saying that it's mostly a mid-19th century site, and that's certainly true. but it goes from the prehistoric period all the way into the late 19th century. We found artifacts, so I'll keep updating you as we learn more, and meanwhile, everybody stay safe and stay healthy.